In the vast, glittering halls of the Zerathian palace, where stars seemed to dance on the crystalline walls and the air hummed with the subtle vibration of ancient alien technology, Princess Lyra stood like a vision from a forbidden dream. Her hair cascaded in waves of pure white, shimmering under the ethereal lights, framing a face of porcelain skin that glowed with an otherworldly luminescence. Small, pointed ears peeked through her locks, delicate and elfin, adding to her exotic allure. She wore a gown that clung to her curvaceous form, silken fabrics that whispered against her body, revealing just enough to ignite the imagination. A blend of regal elegance and seductive grace that made her the envy of galaxies. As the heir to the throne of Zerathia, a realm where her people, the Zerathians, ruled with an iron fist cloaked in superior intellect and unmatched power, Lyra was accustomed to obedience. Her kind had evolved beyond the primitive struggles of lesser species, their minds sharp as laser blades, their bodies engineered for perfection. But today, in the heart of her opulent throne room, she faced something utterly confounding. A human, Kai, the galactic soldier from Earth, knelt not in submission but in mock deference, his wrists bound by energy cuffs that pulsed with a faint blue glow. He was rugged in a way that clashed with the polished perfection around him, tall and broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair and eyes that sparkled with a defiant mischief. His uniform, torn from battles across the stars, hugged his athletic frame, marked by scars that told stories of survival against impossible odds. Humans were seen as curiosities in the galactic empire, barbarians with a knack for chaos, their short lives burning bright but fleeting. Yet here he was, captured during a skirmish on the outer rims, brought before her as a trophy. Lyra's lips curled into a sneer, her voice echoing like a symphony of command. "Kneel properly, Earthling," she demanded, her tone laced with venomous authority. "Bow your head to your superior, or I will end you here and now. Your kind is nothing but dust in the winds of the cosmos." The court around them, advisors in flowing robes, guards with plasma rifles at the ready, held their breath. No one defied a Zerathian princess, but Kai didn't flinch. Instead, a slow, enigmatic smile spread across his face, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. It wasn't fear, it was amusement, as if he knew a secret that could unravel her entire world. Lyra felt a flicker of unease beneath her composure. Humans were unpredictable, their ingenuity a wild card in the structured order of the stars. What could this mere mortal possibly have up his sleeve? As the tension thickened, Kai's mind raced. He had been trained for moments like this, back on Earth where humanity had clawed its way from planetary isolation to interstellar relevance through sheer grit and innovation. The Zerathians might have superior tech, but humans had something they lacked: adaptability. In the split second before her guards could react, Kai's fingers, hidden behind his back, brushed against the energy cuff's interface. It was a gamble, but one born of human curiosity. He had studied alien tech during his captivity, piecing together patterns from overheard conversations and stolen glances. With a subtle twist, he initiated a reverse engineering protocol in his mind, visualizing the code that powered the cuffs. His smile widened. It was working. Lyra stepped closer, her gowned figure swaying with hypnotic grace, her small elfin ears twitching slightly as she sensed the shift in the air. "What insolence is this? Your smile mocks me, soldier. Speak, before I have your tongue removed." Her threat was meant to cow him, but Kai's grin only deepened, revealing a confidence that bordered on arrogance. "Princess," he said, his voice steady and laced with a charm that surprised even him, "you might want to rethink that. Humans don't kneel easily, we rise." The court gasped as the energy cuffs flickered and died, freeing his hands. Chaos erupted in slow motion, guards lunging forward, plasma bolts charging, but Kai was already moving. He dodged with the agility of a man who had danced with death on a dozen worlds, his hand snatching a nearby ceremonial dagger from a pedestal. It wasn't just any blade, it hummed with Zerathian energy, and in that instant, Kai's human ingenuity kicked in. He mentally mapped its circuitry, adapting it on the fly to disrupt the room's security fields. A pulse emanated from the dagger, jamming weapons and locking doors. Lyra's eyes widened, not in fear, but in a mix of fury and fascination. Who was this human, turning her own technology against her? As the guards stumbled, their rifles inert, Kai closed the distance to Lyra. She raised her hand, summoning a personal force field, but he was too quick. His free hand grazed her arm, not in violence, but in a gesture that was almost tender, disarming her shield with an improvised hack he'd gleaned from their tech's vulnerabilities. They stood face to face now, her breath quickening, her curvaceous form mere inches from his. "You dare touch a princess?" She hissed, but there was a spark in her eyes, a curiosity that belied her words. Kai's smile softened, turning from defiance to something warmer. "Only if she threatens me first, but maybe we can talk instead of fight. Humans are good at turning enemies into something more." The throne room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Lyra, for the first time in her immortal-like life, felt a pull toward this audacious intruder. His scent, earthy, alive, contrasted with the sterile perfection of her world, and as their gazes locked, she wondered if this human's grin hid not just a trap, but a destiny that could reshape empires. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a saga where humanity's underdog spirit would claim not just her throne, but perhaps her heart. Kai held her gaze, his heart pounding not from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown. The Zerathian palace was a labyrinth of wonders, corridors lined with holographic displays showing conquered worlds, air scented with exotic blooms from distant planets. But right now, all that mattered was the princess before him. Lyra's white hair framed her face like a halo, her daw-white skin flushing slightly with anger or intrigue, he couldn't tell which. Her gown, a masterpiece of alien couture, accentuated every curve, making her seem both untouchable and irresistibly close. "You think you can outwit us?" she whispered, her voice a melody that echoed in his mind. "Zerathians have ruled for eons, what makes you so special?" He chuckled softly, the sound disarming in the tense atmosphere. "Special? Nah, just human, we improvise, like right now your force field. It's based on quantum entanglement, right? I figured out the resonance frequency from the hum of those cuffs. Earth tech might be clunky, but our brains, we're wired for chaos." As he spoke, he gently released her arm, stepping back to show he meant no immediate harm. The guards, recovering from the jam, hesitated, looking to Lyra for orders. She held up a hand, her small elfin ears perking up as if listening to an inner voice. "Stand down," she commanded, her eyes never leaving Kai's. "This, earthling, intrigues me. Tell me, soldier, what is your name?" "Kai," he replied, his tone casual, as if they were chatting over drinks in a spaceport bar. "And you? I mean, I know you're the princess, but what's behind the title?" She tilted her head, a gesture that made her look vulnerably curious. "Lyra, Princess Lyra of Zerathia, and you, Kai, have just committed treason against the Empire, yet you smile like a fool. Why?" "Because," he thought, "this is how humans win not with brute force, but with charm and cleverness." Out loud, he said, "Maybe because I see potential here. Your people are advanced, sure, but isolated. Humans, we're connectors. We build alliances, fall in love with the stars themselves." His words hung in the air, laced with an unintended flirtation. Lyra's lips parted slightly, her body language shifting from regal stiffness to something softer. She had heard tales of human passion, wild, untamed, but experiencing it up close was different. It stirred something in her, a dormant fire in her engineered veins. As the moment stretched, Kai's mind continued to work. He spotted a console nearby, its interface glowing with runes he partially understood. If he could access it, reverse engineer the palace's core systems, but first, he needed time. "How about a deal, princess? Let me prove my worth." "A challenge, perhaps. If I win, you hear me out. If I lose..." He trailed off, his grin returning. Lyra's eyes sparkled with challenge. "If you lose, you kneel and die." She stepped closer again, her scent like vanilla mixed with stardust enveloping him. Their proximity was electric, a spark that hinted at forbidden attractions across species lines. What followed was a game of wits, Zerathian style. Lyra led him to an adjacent chamber, a vast arena where holographic puzzles materialized, riddles of physics and logic designed to test the elite. Guards flanked them, but the tension had eased into anticipation. Kai solved the first puzzle effortlessly, adapting human lateral thinking to crack a quantum lock that had stumped Zerathian scholars. Lyra watched, her curvaceous form leaning against a pillar, her gown shifting to reveal more of her elegant legs. "Impressive," she admitted, a hint of admiration creeping in. "But can you handle something personal?" The next challenge involved a simulation, navigating a virtual starship through a nebula storm. Kai aced it, his human intuition guiding him where algorithms failed. As the hologram faded, Lyra approached, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You're not like the others," she murmured, her voice husky. "Humans are supposed to be weak." Kai turned, their faces inches apart. Weak or just different. Sometimes difference is strength. In that moment, The air crackled with unspoken desire, a human soldier and an alien princess, bound by curiosity and the thrill of the forbidden, but danger lurked. Whispers from the court reached Lyra's ears via her neural link, advisors plotting to eliminate the intruder. She silenced them mentally, intrigued by this man who made her question her supremacy. As they moved deeper into the palace, Kai shared stories of Earth, oceans that roared, cities that pulsed with life, loves that burned bright and brief. Lyra listened, her white hair catching the light, her body responding in ways she didn't understand. For the first time, she felt alive, not just ruling. Yet Kai's plan simmered beneath the surface. He needed to get to the throne's core, a nexus of power where he could hack the Empire's network. Flirting with Lyra was part of it, a distraction wrapped in genuine attraction. Her touch lingered on his arm as they walked, her elfin ears flushing pink. "Tell me more about your world," she said, her voice softening. Kai obliged, weaving tales that painted humans as heroes of the galaxy, saviors in disguise. Little by little, he won her over, his grin a beacon in the alien splendor. As night fell on Zerathia, simulated by dimming lights, they found themselves in a private garden, bioluminescent flowers blooming around them. Lyra's gown shimmered, her form a silhouette of temptation. "Why do you fight us?" she asked, vulnerability peeking through. Kai stepped closer. "Not fighting you, fighting for something better, together." Their hands touched, a spark jumping between species. In that garden, under artificial stars, a bond began to form, one that could topple empires or forge new ones. The hours blurred into a dance of words and glances. Kai demonstrated more human ingenuity, fixing a malfunctioning fountain with a makeshift tool from his belt. Lyra laughed, a sound rare in her world, her laughter musical and enchanting. "You make the impossible seem easy," she said, her eyes lingering on his strong frame. He shrugged. "It's humanity. We adapt, we connect, we love fiercely." The word love hung between them, charged with possibility. By the time they returned to the throne room, the court had reassembled. Lyra announced a temporary alliance, stunning her advisors, but Kai knew this was his window. As she turned to address them, he slipped to the console, his fingers flying over the interface, reverse engineering on the spot, human style. Codes cracked, systems bent to his will. The throne's power surged through him, a rush of energy that made him feel invincible. Lyra sensed the shift, turning with wide eyes. "What have you done?" But her tone wasn't accusatory, it was awed. Kai's smile returned, full of promise. "Shown you what partnership looks like. Now, let's unite the stars together." As the palace systems realigned under his command, freeing oppressed species and broadcasting a message of unity, Lyra stepped to his side, her hand in his, a princess and a soldier, ready to rewrite the galaxy, with the palace's ancient systems humming in obedience to his touch. Kai felt the weight of stars shifting in his favor. Lyra's hand fit surprisingly well in his, warm, despite her ethereal coolness, her fingers intertwining with a tentative grip that spoke volumes. She didn't pull away, instead. She leaned closer, her white hair brushing against his shoulder like silk threads from a distant nebula. The throne room, once a bastion of Zerathian dominance, now pulsed with a new energy, screens flickering to life with broadcasts of liberation. Oppressed worlds on the fringes of the Empire received the signal. Freedom was at hand, courtesy of a human's audacious hack. But as the cheers echoed faintly through the comms, a shadow crept into Kai's mind. This victory was fragile, advisors lurked in the wings, their neural links buzzing with schemes. And Lyra, beautiful, imperious Lyra, her loyalty was untested. A wild card in this cosmic game. She turned to him then, her porcelain skin catching the glow of the consoles, making her seem almost luminous. Her gown, that tantalizing weave of fabric, shifted with her movement, hugging the swell of her hips and the graceful curve of her waist. Kai couldn't help but notice how it accentuated her form, a deliberate design of Zerathian fashion meant to command attention. Her small elfin ears twitched subtly, as if attuned to the undercurrents of the room. "You've done the impossible," she whispered, her voice a sultry murmur that sent a ripple through him. It wasn't just admiration, there was a hunger in her eyes, a flicker of something primal that bridged the gap between their species. Humans and Zerathians weren't supposed to mix like this. Biology dictated differences. Cultures enforced divides, but in this moment, with the galaxy teetering on change, those barriers felt thin as vapor. Kai squeezed her hand gently, pulling her a step nearer. The air between them thickened, charged with the remnants of adrenaline from his daring feat. "You might want to rethink that. Humans don't kneel easily, we rise." The court gasped as the energy cuffs flickered and died, freeing his hands. Chaos erupted in slow motion, guards lunging forward, plasma bolts charging, but Kai was already moving. He dodged with the agility of a man who had danced with death on a dozen worlds, his hand snatching a nearby ceremonial dagger from a pedestal. It wasn't just any blade, it hummed with Zerathian energy, and in that instant, Kai's human ingenuity kicked in. He mentally mapped its circuitry, adapting it on the fly to disrupt the room's security fields. A pulse emanated from the dagger, jamming weapons and locking doors. Lyra's eyes widened, not in fear, but in a mix of fury and fascination. Who was this human, turning her own technology against her? As the guards stumbled, their rifles inert, Kai closed the distance to Lyra. She raised her hand, summoning a personal force field, but he was too quick. His free hand grazed her arm, not in violence, but in a gesture that was almost tender, disarming her shield with an improvised hack he'd gleaned from their tech's vulnerabilities. They stood face to face now, her breath quickening, her curvaceous form mere inches from his. "You dare touch a princess?" She hissed, but there was a spark in her eyes, a curiosity that belied her words. Kai's smile softened, turning from defiance to something warmer. "Only if she threatens me first, but maybe we can talk instead of fight. Humans are good at turning enemies into something more." The throne room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Lyra, for the first time in her immortal-like life, felt a pull toward this audacious intruder. His scent, earthy, alive, contrasted with the sterile perfection of her world. And as their gazes locked, she wondered if this human's grin hid not just a trap, but a destiny that could reshape empires. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a saga where humanity's underdog spirit would claim not just her throne, but perhaps her heart. Kai held her gaze, his heart pounding not from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown. The Zerathian palace was a labyrinth of wonders, corridors lined with holographic displays showing conquered worlds, air scented with exotic blooms from distant planets. But right now, all that mattered was the princess before him. Lyra's white hair framed her face like a halo, her daw-white skin flushing slightly with anger or intrigue, he couldn't tell which. Her gown, a masterpiece of alien couture, accentuated every curve, making her seem both untouchable and irresistibly close. "You think you can outwit us?" she whispered, her voice a melody that echoed in his mind. "Zerathians have ruled for eons, what makes you so special?" He chuckled softly, the sound disarming in the tense atmosphere. "Special? Nah, just human, we improvise. Like right now, your force field, it's based on quantum entanglement, right? I figured out the resonance frequency from the hum of those cuffs. Earth tech might be clunky, but our brains, we're wired for chaos." As he spoke, he gently released her arm, stepping back to show he meant no immediate harm. The guards, recovering from the jam, hesitated, looking to Lyra for orders. She held up a hand, her small elfin ears perking up as if listening to an inner voice. "Stand down," she commanded, her eyes never leaving Kai's. "This, earthling, intrigues me. Tell me, soldier, what is your name?" "Kai," he replied, his tone casual, as if they were chatting over drinks in a spaceport bar. "And you, I know you're the princess, but what's behind the title?" She tilted her head, a gesture that made her look vulnerably curious. "Lyra, Princess Lyra of Zerathia, and you, Kai, have just committed treason against the Empire. Yet you smile like a fool. Why?" Because, he thought, this is how humans win, not with brute force, but with charm and cleverness. Out loud, he said, "Maybe because I see potential here. Your people are advanced, sure, but isolated. Humans, we're connectors. We build alliances, fall in love with the stars themselves." His words hung in the air, laced with an unintended flirtation. Lyra's lips parted slightly, her body language shifting from regal stiffness to something softer. She had heard tales of human passion, wild, untamed, but experiencing it up close was different. It stirred something in her, a dormant fire in her engineered veins. As the moment stretched, Kai's mind continued to work. He spotted a console nearby, its interface glowing with runes he partially understood. If he could access it, reverse engineer the palace's core systems, but first, he needed time. "How about a deal, princess? Let me prove my worth. A challenge, perhaps. If I win, you hear me out. If I lose..." He trailed off, his grin returning. Lyra's eyes sparkled with challenge. "If you lose, you kneel and die." She stepped closer again, her scent like vanilla mixed with stardust, enveloping him. Their proximity was electric, a spark that hinted at forbidden attractions across species lines. What followed was a game of wits, Zerathian style. Lyra led him to an adjacent chamber, a vast arena where holographic puzzles materialized, riddles of physics and logic designed to test the elite. Guards flanked them, but the tension had eased into anticipation. Kai solved the first puzzle effortlessly, adapting human lateral thinking to crack a quantum lock that had stumped Zerathian scholars. Lyra watched, her curvaceous form leaning against a pillar, her gown shifting to reveal more of her elegant legs. "Impressive," she admitted, hint of admiration creeping in. "But can you handle something personal?" The next challenge involved a simulation, navigating a virtual starship through a nebula storm. Kai aced it, his human intuition guiding him where algorithms failed. As the hologram faded, Lyra approached, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You're not like the others," she murmured, her voice husky. "Humans are supposed to be weak." Kai turned, their faces inches apart. Weak, or just different. Sometimes difference is strength. In that moment, the air crackled with unspoken desire. A human soldier and an alien princess, bound by curiosity and the thrill of the forbidden, but danger lurked. Whispers from the court reached Lyra's ears via her neural link, advisors plotting to eliminate the intruder. She silenced them mentally, intrigued by this man who made her question her supremacy. As they moved deeper into the palace, Kai shared stories of Earth, oceans that roared, cities that pulsed with life, loves that burned bright and brief. Lyra listened, her white hair catching the light, her body responding in ways she didn't understand. For the first time, she felt alive, not just ruling, yet Kai's plan simmered beneath the surface. He needed to get to the throne's core, a nexus of power where he could hack the Empire's network. Flirting with Lyra was part of it, a distraction wrapped in genuine attraction. Her touch lingered on his arm as they walked, her elfin ears flushing pink. "Tell me more about your world," she said, her voice softening. Kai obliged, weaving tales that painted humans as heroes of the galaxy, saviors in disguise. Little by little, he won her over, his grin a beacon in the alien splendor. As night fell on Zerathia, simulated by dimming lights, they found themselves in a private garden, bioluminescent flowers blooming around them. Lyra's gown shimmered, her form a silhouette of temptation. "Why do you fight us?" she asked, vulnerability peeking through. Kai stepped closer. "Not fighting you, fighting for something better, together." Their hands touched, a spark jumping between species. In that garden, under artificial stars, a bond began to form, one that could topple empires or forge new ones. The hours blurred into a dance of words and glances. Kai demonstrated more human ingenuity, fixing a malfunctioning fountain with a makeshift tool from his belt. Lyra laughed, a sound rare in her world, her laughter musical and enchanting. "You make the impossible seem easy," she said, her eyes lingering on his strong frame. He shrugged. "That's humanity. We adapt, we connect, we love fiercely." The word love hung between them, charged with possibility. By the time they returned to the throne room, the court had reassembled. Lyra announced a temporary alliance, stunning her advisors, but Kai knew this was his window. As she turned to address them, slipped to the console, his fingers flying over the interface, reverse engineering on the spot, human style. Codes cracked, systems bent to his will. The throne's power surged through him, a rush of energy that made him feel invincible. Lyra sensed the shift, turning with wide eyes. "What have you done?" But her tone wasn't accusatory, it was odd. Kai's smile returned, full of promise. "Shown you what partnership looks like. Now, let's unite the stars together." As the palace systems realigned under his command, freeing oppressed species and broadcasting a message of unity, Lyra stepped to his side, her hand in his, a princess and a soldier, ready to rewrite the galaxy. With the palace's ancient systems humming in obedience to his touch, Kai felt the weight of stars shifting in his favor. Lyra's hand fit surprisingly well in his, warm, despite her ethereal coolness, her fingers intertwining with a tentative grip that spoke volumes. She didn't pull away, instead, she leaned closer, her white hair brushing against his shoulder like silk threads from a distant nebula. The throne room, once a bastion of Zerathian dominance, now pulsed with a new energy, screens flickering to life with broadcasts of liberation. Oppressed worlds on the fringes of the Empire received the signal. Freedom was at hand, courtesy of a human's audacious hack. But as the cheers echoed faintly through the comms, a shadow crept into Kai's mind. This victory was fragile, advisors lurked in the wings, their neural links buzzing with schemes. And Lyra, beautiful, imperious Lyra, her loyalty was untested. A wild card in this cosmic game. She turned to him then, her porcelain skin catching the glow of the consoles, making her seem almost luminous. Her gown, that tantalizing weave of fabric, shifted with her movement, hugging the swell of her hips and the graceful curve of her waist. Kai couldn't help but notice how it accentuated her form, a deliberate design of Zerathian fashion meant to command attention. Her small elfin ears twitched subtly, as if attuned to the undercurrents of the room. "You've done the impossible," she whispered, her voice a sultry murmur that sent a ripple through him. It wasn't just admiration, there was a hunger in her eyes, a flicker of something primal that bridged the gap between their species. Humans and Zerathians weren't supposed to mix like this. Biology dictated differences, cultures enforced divides, but in this moment, with the galaxy teetering on change, those barriers felt thin as vapor. Kai squeezed her hand gently, pulling her a step nearer. The air between them thickened, charged with the remnants of adrenaline from his daring feat. "We did it," he corrected, his voice low and steady, though his pulse raced at her proximity. Her scent enveloped him again, that intoxicating blend of stardust and subtle florals, stirring instincts he hadn't anticipated. He could feel the heat radiating from her body, a contrast to the cool palace air, and it drew him in like gravity. But suspense hung heavy. He knew the advisors wouldn't surrender power so easily. Whispers filtered through the room, subtle at first, then growing bolder. One elder, his robes embroidered with symbols of ancient authority, stepped forward, his face a mask of calculated calm. "Princess, this intruder has tampered with the core. We must contain him before the empire fractures." Lyra's grip tightened, her nails sharp and elegant, digging slightly into Kai's skin, a mix of possession and warning. She didn't release him, though, if anything. She positioned herself between him and the advisor, her curvaceous silhouette a barrier of defiance. "The core recognizes new leadership," she declared, her tone regal yet laced with an edge that made Kai's blood hum. Her eyes darted to his, a silent question lingering. "Trust me?" He nodded imperceptibly, his free hand brushing the small of her back, a touch that was meant to reassure but ignited a spark instead. The contact was electric, her gown's fabric thin enough to feel the smoothness of her skin beneath. She inhaled sharply, her chest rising in a way that drew his gaze downward for a fleeting second, the erotic tension building like a storm on the horizon. The advisor's neural link flared, a visible pulse of light at his temple, signaling reinforcements. Guards, previously stunned by the system override, began to stir, their plasma rifles whining back to life as backup protocols engaged. Kai's mind raced. He had anticipated this, but not so soon. His hack was thorough, but Zerathian tech had layers, redundancies built over millennia. He needed time to solidify control, and Lyra's alliance was key. "We can't let them regroup," he murmured to her, his breath warm against her ear. She shivered at the intimacy, her elfin ears flushing a delicate pink, a physiological response he hadn't expected. It was endearing, vulnerable, and it stirred something protective and possessive in him. Humans were wired for connection, after all, and in this alien splendor, she was a puzzle he ached to solve. As the guards advanced slowly, testing the waters, Lyra pulled Kai toward a side alcove, a hidden passage veiled by holographic illusions. "This way," she hissed, her voice breathy with urgency. They slipped into the shadows, the door sealing behind them with a soft whoosh. The corridor was narrow, intimate, forcing them close, her body brushing against his with every step. The suspense mounted, footsteps echoed distantly, pursuers closing in. Kai's hand remained on her back, guiding and steadying, but the touch evolved, his fingers tracing the curve of her spine through the gown's sheer material. She didn't protest, instead, she arched slightly into it, a subtle invitation that heightened the erotic undercurrent. "Why help me?" he asked, his voice a whisper in the dim light, their faces inches apart. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the low illumination, met his with intensity. "Because you awakened something in me," she confessed, her words laced with a husky timbre. "Zerathians live long, but passionlessly. You burn." Her hand slid up his arm, fingers exploring the contours of his muscles, hardened from battles across the stars. The contact was exploratory, sensual, sending waves of heat through him. They paused in a small chamber, a respite amid the chase, where bioluminescent vines climbed the walls, casting a soft, romantic glow. Lyra pressed against him, her full lips parting as if to speak, but instead, she leaned in, her breath mingling with his. The air crackled with anticipation, the erotic tension coiling tighter. Kai's resolve wavered. He was a soldier, trained for war, not this dance of desire. But her allure was undeniable, her white hair cascading like a waterfall, her daw-white skin inviting touch, her gown slipping slightly off one shoulder to reveal the elegant slope of her collarbone. He cupped her face gently, thumb tracing her jawline, feeling the rapid pulse beneath. "This could complicate things," he murmured, though his body betrayed him, drawing her closer. The suspense of their predicament amplified everything, the distant hum of alarms, the knowledge that capture meant death. Yet here, in this stolen moment, it fueled a fire. Lyra's hands roamed his chest, fingers deftly unfastening a clasp on his uniform, exposing skin marked by old scars. "Complications make life worth living," she replied, her voice a seductive purr. Their lips met then, tentative at first, a brush of worlds colliding. Hers were soft, tasting of exotic spices and forbidden fruit, while his were firm, insistent. The kiss deepened, suspense giving way to raw need. Kai's hands explored her curves, the gown's fabric yielding under his touch, revealing more of her gowned perfection. She gasped into his mouth, her body molding against him, the erotic rhythm building as they lost themselves. But reality intruded, a sharp alert from his wrist device, a remnant of Earth tech, warning of approaching guards. They broke apart, breathless, her eyes dark with desire. "We must keep moving," she said, though her fingers lingered on his skin. Deeper into the palace they fled, the corridors twisting like veins in a living organism. Lyra led with grace, her hips swaying in a way that distracted Kai despite the danger. The erotic haze lingered, making every glance charged. They reached a secure chamber, a private sanctum where she sealed the doors with a palm scan. "Here, we can regroup," she explained, turning to him. The room was opulent, plush cushions on low platforms, holographic stars twinkling overhead, but tension simmered. Outside, the Empire stirred against them. Kai accessed a terminal, his fingers flying to reinforce his hack, while Lyra watched, her presence a tantalizing distraction. As he worked, she approached from behind, her hands sliding over his shoulders, massaging away the knots of stress. "Let me help," she whispered, her breath hot on his neck. The touch was intimate, erotic, her body pressing against his back. Kai paused, turning to pull her into his lap as he sat at the console. She straddled him effortlessly, her gown riding up to expose thighs of smooth, pale skin, their eyes locked. Suspense building anew. What if the doors gave way? But desire won. His hands roamed her sides, tracing the outline of her form, while hers tangled in his hair, pulling him into another kiss. This one was fiercer, tongues dancing in a rhythm that mirrored the chaos outside. Lyra's small elfin ears quivered with each moan she stifled, her curvaceous body arching into his touch. Kai's fingers found the ties of her gown, loosening them slowly, savoring the reveal. The fabric pooled around her waist, bearing her to him, perfect, otherworldly, yet so responsive to his human warmth. She ground against him, the friction building heat, erotic whispers escaping her lips. "Show me more of your ingenuity," she teased, her voice laced with need. He obliged, his mouth trailing down her neck, nipping at the sensitive skin where her pulse thrummed. The suspense of interruption heightened every sensation, the distant pounding on doors, the flickering lights signaling system strains. They moved to the cushions, bodies entwining in a tangle of limbs and passion. Kai explored her with reverence and hunger, his hands caressing her breasts, thumbs circling peaks that hardened under his attention. Lyra's responses were uninhibited, her alien physiology amplifying sensations, waves of pleasure that echoed through neural links, making her gasp and writhe. She returned the favor, her fingers deftly stripping his uniform, tracing scars that told tales of heroism. The erotic dance unfolded slowly, building to a crescendo, each touch laced with the thrill of forbidden union. As they joined, the world narrowed to just them, human grit meeting alien grace, suspense dissolving into ecstasy. But even in bliss, the galaxy intruded. A sudden jolt shook the room, advisors breaching outer defenses. Lyra clung to him, her body still trembling from their shared release, eyes wide with a mix of satisfaction and alarm. "They come," she breathed, pulling him up. Kai nodded, redonning his gear with haste, his mind sharpening once more. The erotic interlude had forged a deeper bond, but the fight was far from over. Hand in hand, they prepared to face the storm, their alliance sealed in fire and desire. The chase resumed, corridors blurring as they evaded patrols. Lyra's gown, hastily retied, bore marks of their passion, wrinkles and shifts that made her look even more alluring. Kai's grin returned, that enigmatic smile from the start, now infused with intimacy. "Worth the risk?" he asked, dodging a laser blast. She laughed breathlessly, her hand squeezing his. Every moment, the suspense coiled tighter, erotic memories fueling their resolve as they pushed toward the heart of the Empire's power. As laser blasts scorched the walls mere inches from their heels, Kai and Lyra burst into a wider atrium, the heart of the palace's command nexus, a cavernous space where holographic maps of the Empire swirled like living constellations overhead. The air thrummed with the low growl of emergency sirens, red lights pulsing in rhythm with their racing hearts. Lyra's laughter faded into a determined gasp, her white hair whipping behind her like a banner of rebellion, while her gown, still bearing the intimate creases from their stolen passion, fluttered with each frantic step. Kai's hand remained locked in hers, a lifeline amid the chaos, his muscles coiled for the fight he knew was inevitable. They weren't just running now, they were charging toward destiny. The Empire's core controls just ahead, where his initial hack could be amplified to broadcast a new era or crushed if they faltered. The atrium was a fortress of technology and grandeur, pillars etched with Zerathian runes that glowed ominously, and elevated platforms where elite guards converged like shadows materializing from the void. But what made Kai's blood run cold wasn't the array of plasma cannons locking onto them. It was the figure emerging from the central dais, the High Advisor, Ilaren, Lyra's own uncle, his face twisted in a mask of betrayal and fury. He was clad in ornate armor that hummed with personal shields, his eyes cold and calculating, fixing on Lyra with a paternal disappointment that masked deeper ambition. "Niece," he boomed, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics, echoing like thunder across the stars, "you disgrace our lineage by consorting with this vermin. Surrender him, and perhaps your throne can be salvaged." Lyra skidded to a halt beside Kai, her curvaceous form tensing, small elfin ears flattening against her head in a rare display of raw emotion. She released his hand only to step forward, her porcelain skin flushed with a defiant glow under the harsh lights. "Uncle, the throne is mine by right, and now, by choice. This human has shown me what true power looks like, not domination, but unity." Her words hung heavy, dramatic in their conviction, but Kai sensed the undercurrent of doubt in her voice, a curiosity about her own shifting loyalties that thrilled him even as it heightened the stakes. Ilaren laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers through the air, gesturing to the guards who formed a tightening circle. "Unity, with primitives, you've been seduced, child. But I'll end this farce." In that heartbeat, the climax ignited. Blasts erupted from all sides, a symphony of destruction that turned the atrium into a battlefield of light and shadow. Kai dove behind a pillar, pulling Lyra with him, his soldier's instincts kicking in with thrilling precision. He had no weapon but his wits and the dagger he'd claimed earlier, now pulsing in his grip like an extension of his will. "Stay close," he shouted over the din, his eyes scanning for vulnerabilities. The guards advanced methodically, their armor deflecting stray shots, but Kai's human ingenuity surged. Spotting a control node embedded in the floor, a nexus for the holograms, he rolled out, exposing himself to fire and slammed the dagger into it. A surge of energy rippled outward, disrupting shields in a wave that left several guards staggering, their tech faltering under the improvised overload. Lyra watched in awe, her heart pounding not just from fear but from a curious admiration that bordered on obsession. Who was this man, turning her world upside down with nothing but a smile and sheer audacity? She joined the fray. Her own abilities awakening, Zerathian royalty had latent psionic talents, and she channeled them now, projecting a mental barrier that deflected a bolt aimed at Kai's back. The impact jarred her, but the thrill of fighting alongside him, of feeling alive in ways her sheltered life never allowed, fueled her. "Behind you," she cried as another guard lunged. Kai spun, his movements fluid and lethal, disarming the attacker with a precise strike that sent the rifle clattering. But the surprise came swift and brutal. Ilaren activated a hidden protocol, the atrium's gravity fields inverting in pockets, pulling combatants off their feet like puppets on strings. Kai felt the world tilt, his body lifting involuntarily, but he adapted instantly. Humans, forged in Earth's unpredictable wilds, thrived in chaos. He grabbed a dangling vine from the bioluminescent decor, swinging toward Ilaren with acrobatic grace that left Lyra breathless. The advisor's eyes widened in surprise, his composure cracking as Kai collided with him, the two tumbling across the dais in a tangle of limbs and fury. Punches flew, Kai's raw strength against Ilaren's enhanced reflexes, each blow landing with dramatic impact, echoing through the chamber. Blood trickled from Kai's lip, but his grin never faded, that enigmatic smile now a weapon of psychological warfare. "You underestimated us," he growled, pinning Ilaren momentarily. "Humans don't break, we evolve." Lyra, floating in the erratic gravity, used her psionics to propel herself forward, her gown tearing slightly at the hem to reveal more of her toned legs, adding an unintended layer of vulnerability to her fierce advance. She landed beside them, her hand glowing with energy as she restrained her uncle's arm. "Stand down, Ilaren. The Empire needs change." But the advisor's face contorted in a surprising revelation. He wasn't just ambitious, he was desperate. With a snarl, he activated a concealed device, unleashing a neural pulse that targeted Lyra's mind, probing her thoughts with invasive tendrils. She cried out, clutching her head, her small elfin ears quivering in pain. Images flashed in her vision, hidden alliances with rival factions, plots to usurp her throne long before Kai's arrival. The curiosity turned to shock. Her own family had been poisoning the well of power. Thrilling adrenaline surged through Kai as he saw her falter. He broke free from the grapple, tackling Ilaren with renewed force, his fists raining down in a dramatic crescendo of justice. "Get out of her head." He roared, his voice raw with protective rage. The pulse weakened under the assault, but Ilaren fought back, his armor deploying microdrones that swarmed Kai like angry insects, stinging with electric shocks. Pain lanced through him, but it only sharpened his focus, the climax building to a fever pitch. Lyra, recovering, channeled her pain into power, her psionics exploding outward in a wave that shattered the drones and flung guards against the walls. The atrium shook, holograms flickering wildly, displaying fractured visions of rebelling worlds inspired by Kai's broadcast. In the midst of the turmoil, a surprising twist unfolded. As Ilaren lay pinned, gasping, he whispered a secret that hung in the air like a bombshell. "You think this human is your savior? He's not the first. Your mother, she fell for one too. That's why she vanished, banished to the void for her weakness." Lyra's eyes widened, the revelation striking like lightning, curiosity igniting into a storm of questions. Her mother, long thought dead in a diplomatic accident, alive, involved with a human. It explained the whispers of scandal in her childhood, the holes in the official histories. She turned to Kai, her porcelain face a mask of dramatic turmoil, tears glistening in her luminous eyes. "Is this true? Did your people?" Kai, breathing heavily, shook his head. Though doubt flickered in his own mind, Earth's archives held classified files on early contacts. "I don't know, but it doesn't change us. We're writing our own story." The thrill of the unknown propelled them forward. Ilaren seized the distraction, wriggling free and activating a self-destruct sequence for the Nexus. Alarms blared louder, the chamber quaking as structural integrity faltered. Guards, loyal to the end, regrouped for a final assault, their numbers swelling from hidden reinforcements. Kai hauled Lyra to her feet, their bodies pressing close in the chaos, her curvaceous form fitting against him like a puzzle piece. "We have to override it now." They raced to the central console, dodging debris as pillars cracked and fell in slow, dramatic arcs. Kai's fingers danced over the interface, reverse engineering the destruct code with heart-pounding speed, while Lyra shielded them psionically, her energy waning but her resolve steel. Blasts grazed them, singeing Kai's uniform and tearing Lyra's gown further, exposing the graceful arch of her back. The intimacy of their earlier moments fueled his determination. He wouldn't lose her now. With a triumphant keystroke, the sequence halted, but Ilaren, cornered and desperate, lunged with a final, surprising gambit, a concealed blade aimed at Lyra's heart. Time seemed to slow in that thrilling instant. Kai intercepted, the blade glancing off his arm in a spray of blood, pain exploding but adrenaline numbing it. He countered with a devastating blow, sending Ilaren crumpling, unconscious at last. The guards, witnessing their leader's fall, hesitated, curiosity and fear rippling through their ranks. Lyra knelt beside Kai, her hands pressing against his wound, her touch tender amid the destruction. "You saved me," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion, eyes searching his for answers to the revelations still swirling in her mind. But the drama wasn't over. The atrium's doors burst open, revealing a horde of reinforcements, their weapons primed. Kai stood, bloodied but unbowed, his arm around Lyra's waist, pulling her close. The climax peaked in that standoff, the air electric with uncertainty. Would they fight to the death, or had the seeds of change taken root? Lyra raised her voice, dramatic and commanding. "Lower your arms, the old ways end today." To everyone's surprise, including her own, several guards complied, murmuring about the broadcasts, about human resilience inspiring hope. The tide turned, thrillingly, as defections spread like wildfire. Yet in the midst of victory, a curious hologram flickered to life on the console, an encrypted message from the void, addressed to Lyra, bearing her mother's signature. The surprise deepened the mystery. "Daughter, the humans hold the key, find me." Kai and Lyra exchanged a glance, the thrill of new horizons beckoning amid the rubble. The Empire teetered, but their bond, forged in fire, promised to rebuild it stronger. As the dust settled, they stepped forward together, ready to unravel the galaxy's secrets, with the hologram's cryptic message lingering like a ghost in the flickering lights of the atrium. Kai and Lyra stood amid the wreckage, their alliance now laced with layers of unspoken drama that threatened to pull them apart as much as it bound them. The defeated guards lowered their weapons one by one, the clatter of plasma rifles hitting the floor echoing through the chamber like reluctant applause. But the air was thick with uncertainty, loyalists could still lurk in the shadows, and Alaren's revelations about Lyra's mother hung over them like a storm cloud ready to burst. Kai's arm throbbed from the blade wound, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage Lyra had fashioned from a strip of her torn gown, but he managed a wry smile, trying to lighten the moment. Well, that was dramatic. Nothing says family reunion like a near apocalypse and a long-lost mom dropping holographic breadcrumbs. Lyra shot him a look, her porcelain skin still flushed from the battle's adrenaline, her small elfin ears twitching in a mix of irritation and amusement, though the amusement won out, curving her full lips into a reluctant smirk. Humans and your humor in the face of catastrophe. Is this how you cope? Or are you just trying to charm your way out of explaining why Earth might have secrets about my lineage? She stepped closer, her curvaceous form brushing against him as she adjusted the bandage, her touch lingering a beat too long, turning what should have been a practical gesture into something awkwardly intimate right there in front of the surrendering guards. One of them cleared his throat loudly, shifting on his feet, and Kai couldn't help but chuckle, the sound bubbling up despite the pain. Hey, if it works, why fix it? But seriously, Princess, if your mom's out there playing interstellar hide-and-seek with humans, we might need a bigger ship than I thought. The drama escalated as more reinforcements poured in, not attackers this time, but a mix of palace staff and lower-ranking officials drawn by the commotion, their faces a tapestry of confusion and awe. Whispers spread like wildfire, the princess allied with an earthling, the advisor defeated, and now this message from the beyond. Lyra raised her hand for silence, her voice commanding yet laced with vulnerability that heightened the tension. The old regime falls today. Broadcast the truth to all sectors. Zerathia seeks unity, not conquest. But as the orders were relayed, an awkward hitch arose. A young aide, barely out of his training robes, stumbled forward, his neural implant glitching from the earlier overload, causing his voice to warble comically high-pitched. Why, Your Highness, the comms are squeaking, operational, but the hack has made everything sound like a flock of startled avians. Kai burst out laughing, the humor cutting through the drama like a laser through fog, even as Lyra's cheeks tinted a faint pink, mortified, yet unable to suppress a giggle that escaped her lips. The aide's face turned betrayed, amplifying the awkwardness as the entire atrium seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her reaction. Fix it, she managed, her tone stern but undermined by the quiver of suppressed laughter, and perhaps invest in better implants next time. The moment provided a brief respite, but it underscored the fragility of their position, technology faltering, loyalties shifting, and now this personal bombshell about her mother that made every glance between them charged with unspoken questions. Kai leaned in, whispering, "See, even empires have tech support fails. Makes us humans feel right at home." As they moved toward the central console to secure the systems fully, the drama deepened with the arrival of a holographic council projection, representatives from allied worlds, their forms shimmering into existence around the dais. These were no mere underlings, they were dignitaries from planets long subjugated under Zerathian rule, their expressions a volatile mix of hope and skepticism. One, a burly ambassador from Velquar with tentacles instead of arms, waved them accusingly. "Princess Lyra, explain this madness. We've received your broadcast, but allying with a human? Their kind are reckless firebrands, charming, perhaps, but dangerous." The words hit like a slap, heightening the tension as eyes turned to Kai, who stood there with his bloodied arm and disheveled uniform, looking every bit the underdog intruder. Lyra straightened, her gown, now more battle-worn than regal, with rips that exposed tantalizing glimpses of her pale skin, adding to the dramatic tableau. "This human has proven more than your prejudices allow. He dismantled our core defenses with ingenuity alone." But the awkwardness peaked when another counselor, a sly diplomat from Nethuria with iridescent scales, leaned forward in her projection. Ingenuity or seduction? Rumors fly faster than light, whispers of intimate alliances in the midst of chaos. The implication hung heavy, and Kai felt heat rise to his face, an uncharacteristic blush that made him shift uncomfortably. Lyra's small elfin ears flushed deeper, her curvaceous figure tensing as she met the counselor's gaze. Mind your tongues, our bond is strategic and personal, but it strengthens us, not weakens. Kai, ever the human with a knack for diffusing tension with humor, interjected with a grin. Hey, if saving the galaxy involves a little romance, count me in. Better than paperwork, right? The counselors exchanged bewildered looks, one chuckling despite himself, but the drama refused to ebb. The Velquar ambassador pressed on. Prove it, then. Transmit the full logs of this hack. If it's as revolutionary as claimed, we'll pledge support. But if it's a ruse? The threat trailed off, leaving the atrium buzzing with suspense. Kai nodded, stepping to the console, his fingers, still sticky with blood, dancing over the interface. But in a comically awkward twist, the system, still recovering from his earlier override, responded with a burst of holographic confetti, showering them in virtual sparkles that clung to Lyra's white hair like misplaced stardust. That's not supposed to happen, he muttered, swatting at the illusions, while Lyra brushed them off her shoulders, laughing outright now. Your ingenuity strikes again, Earthling. The light-hearted moment eased the council's stern facades, a few smiling faintly, but it couldn't mask the underlying drama. As the logs transmitted successfully, minus the confetti glitch, the responses flooded in, pledges of allegiance from some, defiant challenges from others. One rogue faction from the Outer Rims declared open rebellion, vowing to exploit the power vacuum. Lyra's face paled, her hand seeking Kai's instinctively, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that was both comforting and awkwardly public under the council's scrutinizing eyes. This is just the beginning, she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of it all. Kai squeezed back, injecting humor to steady her. Yeah, but think of the stories we'll tell. How I Met Your Mother, Galactic Edition. The awkwardness amplified when a personal communique pierced the chaos, a direct link from a hidden outpost, bearing coordinates that matched the hologram's origin. It was her mother's voice, distorted but unmistakable. Lyra, my child, the humans, they saved me once. Come find me. But beware the shadows in our bloodline. The message cut off abruptly, leaving the atrium in stunned silence. Ilaren, stirring from his defeat and now bound by loyalist-turned allies, groaned from the floor. I tried to protect you from this truth, he rasped, heightening the family drama to operatic levels. Lyra knelt beside him, her gown pooling around her like a fallen star, her expression a storm of betrayal and curiosity. Why hide it? Was it shame, or fear that I'd follow her path? Kai hovered nearby, feeling like an intruder in this intimate confrontation, his presence awkward amid the familial unraveling. He cleared his throat, attempting levity. Family drama's universal, on Earth, we'd handle this over awkward dinner conversations, not laser fights. Ilaren glared, but Lyra's lips twitched, the humor a lifeline. She rose, pulling Kai aside as the council deliberated. This changes everything. If my mother lives, allied with humans, we must go to her. But the drama crested with a sudden alert, incoming fleet from the rebel faction, warping and fast, the atrium's defenses, still glitchy, responded with another burst of confetti instead of shields, eliciting groans and chuckles alike. Okay, that's on me, Kai admitted sheepishly, racing to fix it while Lyra coordinated evacuations. In the frenzy, awkward situations piled on guards fumbling with overridden weapons that now played cheerful tunes instead of firing, counselors' holograms glitching to show them in undignified poses, one even mid-yawn. Kai couldn't stop snickering as he worked, the humor keeping panic at bay. Who knew hacking an empire would turn it into a comedy show? Lyra, pressed against him at the console, her body warm and distracting, rolled her eyes but leaned in closer. Only you could find amusement in Armageddon. Their proximity reignited sparks from earlier, but the timing was comically off. A rebel scout drone buzzed overhead, forcing them to duck, tangled in a heap that left them laughing breathlessly. As shields finally engaged properly, the fleet's vanguard appeared on scans, massive cruisers bearing down. Drama soared, this was no skirmish, but a full assault. Lyra broadcast a final plea for peace, her voice steady despite the chaos. Join us or fall with the old ways. Responses trickled in, some defected mid-warp, heightening the thrill, but the core force pressed on. Kai, arm-aching, pulled her into a quick embrace. We've got this. Humans specialize in underdog wins. She nodded, her small elfin ears perking with resolve, but the awkward truth lingered. Their bond, born of passion and peril, now carried the weight of empires and lost mothers. The battle loomed, but in a surprising twist of humor. the lead rebel ship hailed them not with threats but a confused query. "Is this the right channel? Your defenses are sparkling." The confetti glitch had broadcast empire-wide, turning potential doom into a galaxy-wide meme. Laughter echoed through comms, diffusing tension momentarily. Lyra buried her face in Kai's shoulder, muffling her giggles. "Your fault entirely." He grinned. "Guilty, but hey, laughter's the best weapon." As negotiations flickered to life amid the standoff, the drama held its breath. Would peace prevail? Or would the stars ignite? With her mother's coordinates locked in, Kai and Lyra prepared for the journey ahead, their path woven with heightened stakes, awkward revelations, and just enough humor to keep the cosmos from crumbling. As negotiations hummed through the comms like tentative whispers across the void, with rebel captains begrudgingly standing down under the weight of broadcasted evidence and the unexpected levity of those glitchy defenses, Kai and Lyra found a rare pocket of calm in the command nexus. The atrium, though scarred from battle, began to settle, guards reallocating to secure perimeters, council holograms fading into standby as alliances tentatively formed. But the coordinates from her mother's message burned bright on the console, a beacon pulling them toward uncharted territories. Lyra's hand lingered on Kai's arm, her touch a silent anchor amid the resolving chaos, her porcelain skin still warm from the adrenaline's afterglow. "We can't delay," she said softly, her voice carrying a mix of resolve and the lingering echo of revelations that made her small elfin ears twitch with unspoken worries. Kai nodded, his own thoughts racing ahead to the journey, but his eyes traced the elegant lines of her form. The way her torn gown clung to her curves, a reminder of how close they'd come to losing everything and how deeply their connection had rooted in the midst of it all. They retreated to a nearby antechamber, a secluded space adjacent to the nexus, where the palace's automated systems had dimmed the lights to a soft, ambient glow, mimicking the gentle twilight of Zerathia's moons. It was meant for strategy sessions, but in this moment, it felt like a sanctuary, walls adorned with flowing tapestries that whispered in the recycled air. Kai sealed the door with a quick override, his wound now properly bandaged by a medical drone that hovered away efficiently. The room's quiet enveloped them, a stark contrast to the external frenzy, allowing the tension between them to simmer and rise like heat from a distant star. Lyra turned to him, her white hair cascading over one shoulder, framing her luminous eyes that held a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. "Kai, with everything unfolding, my mother, the Empire's fractures, I need to feel grounded. With you," her words hung in the air, charged with an invitation that made his pulse quicken. He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking until he could feel the subtle warmth radiating from her body, her scent, that intoxicating blend of floral essence and cosmic mystery, drawing him in. Kai's hand rose to brush a strand of her hair aside, his fingers grazing the delicate point of her elfin ear, eliciting a soft inhale from her that sent a shiver through him. "You've been my anchor too," he murmured, his voice low and sincere, laced with the raw emotion of survival and desire. Their earlier moments of passion had been rushed, fueled by danger, but here, in this brief respite, there was time to explore, to connect on a level that transcended species and stars. Lyra's hands found his chest, fingers tracing the contours of his uniform, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath. She leaned in, her full lips meeting his in a kiss that started gentle, a tender affirmation of their bond, deepened with the pent-up intensity of the day's trials. Kai responded, his arms encircling her waist, pulling her flush against him, the softness of her curvaceous form molding to his strength in a way that felt both natural and exhilarating. The kiss grew more fervent, their breaths mingling as hands wandered, his along the graceful arch of her back, her slipping under his shirt to explore the warm skin there, tracing old scars with a touch that was reverent and igniting. The room seemed to fade, the hum of the palace distant, as they surrendered to the pull between them, a dance of closeness that promised solace amid uncertainty. She guided him toward a low, cushioned platform in the chamber's center, a piece of Zerathian furniture designed for repose but now serving as their haven. Kai followed willingly, his mind attuned to her every cue, the way her body language spoke of need and trust. As they sank onto the cushions, Lyra's gown slipped further, the fabric yielding to gravity and intention, revealing the elegant lines of her shoulders and the smooth expanse of her pale skin. He paused to admire her, his gaze filled with wonder and affection, whispering, "You're incredible, strong, beautiful, everything." Her cheeks flushed a soft pink, her small elfin ears quivering slightly in response, a physiological tell that only heightened the intimacy. She pulled him down with her, their bodies aligning in a tangle of limbs, the contact sending waves of warmth through them both. In the dim light, they explored each other with unhurried care, hands mapping territories of sensation, his fingers tracing the curve of her hip, eliciting a quiet sigh from her that echoed in his ears like music from another world. Lyra's touch was equally attentive, her nails grazing lightly along his back, drawing him closer as their kisses trailed from lips to necks, shoulders, and beyond. The connection felt profound, a blending of human passion and Zerathian grace, where every caress built layers of trust and pleasure. Kai's mouth found the sensitive spot just below her ear, his breath warm against her skin, causing her to arch into him, her body responding with a natural rhythm that mirrored the stars' eternal dance. She whispered his name, a soft plea that spurred him on, their movements syncing in a harmonious flow. The intensity built gradually, a crescendo of shared breaths and gentle urgings, as they gave in to the moment's embrace. Lyra's legs wrapped around him, pulling him nearer, the friction of their bodies creating sparks of delight that radiated through them. Kai held her close, his hands supportive and tender, ensuring every touch conveyed care amid the rising heat. Their union was a celebration of survival, a reaffirmation of the bond that had sparked in defiance and grown through peril, a gentle, consuming wave that washed over them, leaving no room for the galaxy's chaos. Sensations blurred into a tapestry of warmth and connection, her soft gasps mingling with his murmured endearments, as they lost themselves in the rhythm, bodies moving as one in a private symphony, time stretched in that intimate cocoon, the outside world held at bay by the chamber's seals. Lyra's white hair fanned out like a halo on the cushions, her porcelain features softened by bliss, while Kai's rugged form complemented hers in perfect contrast. They lingered in the afterglow, limbs entwined, breath slowing to a contented sync. Her hand rested on his chest, feeling the steady thrum of life while his fingers idly stroked her arm, tracing patterns that spoke of future promises. This, us, it's what gives me strength for what's ahead, she confessed, her voice husky with emotion. Kai kissed her forehead, a gentle seal on the moment. Same here. Whatever waits out there with your mother, the rebels, we face it together. But even in this serenity, the drama of their quest crept back in subtly. A soft chime from the console in the adjacent nexus alerted them to incoming updates, the rebel fleet fully standing down, alliances solidifying, but with urgent calls for leadership presence. Lyra sighed, shifting to sit up, her gown readjusted with a graceful motion that still carried the intimacy of their shared time. Duty calls, she said, though her eyes lingered on him, filled with a newfound depth. Kai rose with her, pulling on his uniform, the ache in his arm forgotten in the warmth lingering between them. Let's answer it, but remember, we've got more than strategy on our side now. They emerged from the antechamber hand in hand, the subtle glow on their faces unnoticed by the bustling staff, but the bond between them palpable, a quiet strength forged in closeness. As they approached the console, the coordinates pulsed brighter, a path to answers about her mother and perhaps the hidden ties between their worlds. The Empire's future hung in the balance, but in that moment, their personal connection felt like the true axis on which it turned. Lyra activated the navigation charts, her curvaceous silhouette outlined against the holographic display, while Kai stood beside her, ready for the leap into the unknown. The journey ahead promised more revelations, but for now, the intimacy they'd shared infused them with resilience. As the palace stabilized, messages from distant allies poured in, praising the unexpected unity sparked by a human's ingenuity and a princess's vision. Yet Lyra's thoughts drifted to the message's implications, her mother's survival, the human involvement adding layers to their alliance. Kai sensed her introspection, squeezing her hand reassuringly. One step at a time, we've conquered worse today. In the hours that followed, as they prepared the royal shuttle for departure, stocking it with supplies, briefing a small crew of trusted allies, the memory of their private interlude lingered like a warm undercurrent, bolstering them against the uncertainties. Lyra's small elfin ears perked at every new development, her mind sharp, but her glances toward Kai carried a softness that spoke volumes. He returned them with his signature grin, now infused with deeper affection, a reminder that amid galactic upheavals, their connection was a constant star. As the shuttle's engines hummed to life, lifting them from the palace docks into the vastness of space, the coordinates guided them toward a distant nebula where secrets awaited. The stars streaked by in hyperspace, a blur of possibilities, while inside the vessel, Kai and Lyra found moments to steal away, their bond evolving with each shared whisper and touch. The intimacy they'd nurtured wasn't just a fleeting escape, it was the foundation for whatever trials lay ahead, a blend of passion and partnership that could reshape destinies. Through the viewport, the nebula loomed, a swirling mass of colors hiding outposts and enigmas. Lyra leaned against Kai, her head on his shoulder, the gentle rise and fall of her breathing a soothing rhythm. What if she's changed? What if the humans she knew shaped her? Kai wrapped an arm around her, drawing her close. Then we'll adapt, that's what we do best. Their closeness in the confined space reignited subtle sparks, but they channeled it into focus, planning their approach with the same synergy that defined their personal moments. As they neared the coordinates, sensors picked up a hidden station. Cloaked in the nebula's gases, a relic of old alliances, perhaps, docking procedures initiated, the airlock hissing open to reveal a dimly lit corridor, empty but echoing with potential. Lyra's hand found Kai's again, their fingers interlacing as they stepped forward, the intimacy of their bond a shield against the unknown, whatever awaited her mother. Truths about interspecies ties, they were ready, fortified by a connection that transcended worlds. As the airlock sealed behind them with a resonant thud, Kai and Lyra ventured deeper into the hidden station's corridor, the dim lighting casting elongated shadows that danced along the metallic walls like silent guardians of forgotten secrets. The air was stale, laced with the faint metallic tang of recycled oxygen and underlying dust from years of isolation, but it carried a whisper of familiarity for Lyra, a scent reminiscent of her childhood tales about her mother's expeditions. Her hand remained clasped in Kai's, their fingers interlocked not just for reassurance but as a tangible link in the chain of their evolving bond, forged through battles, revelations, and those intimate moments that had woven their fates together. The station, cloaked within the nebula's swirling mists, hummed softly with dormant systems coming online at their approach, sensors flickering to life as if awakening from a long slumber. Kai's senses were on high alert, his soldiers' training scanning for threats, but he couldn't shake the undercurrent of excitement. This was the cusp of answers, a bridge between Lyra's past and their shared future. They moved cautiously, Lyra's curvaceous form gliding with the innate grace of her Zerathian heritage, her white hair catching glints from the sporadic overhead panels, while her small elfin ears perked at every subtle creak of the structure. Kai walked beside her, his rugged frame a contrast to the station's sleek, alien architecture, curved bulkheads etched with runes that matched those in the Zerathian palace, hinting at a shared origin. "This place feels like a time capsule," he remarked softly, his voice echoing just enough to fill the silence without shattering it. "Your mother's handiwork." Lyra nodded, her porcelain skin glowing faintly in the low light, a mix of anticipation and trepidation in her luminous eyes. "She was always the explorer in our family, pushing boundaries while others clung to tradition. If she's here, she'll have stories that could rewrite everything we know." As they rounded a bend, the corridor opened into a central hub, a spacious chamber lined with consoles that blinked erratically, holographic displays suspended in midair showing star charts dotted with marked human colonies. The sight made Kai pause, a flicker of recognition stirring, some of those markers aligned with Earth's classified outposts, places he'd patrolled in his early days as a galactic soldier. Lyra released his hand to approach one of the displays, her fingers hovering over the controls, activating a sequence that illuminated the room further. These coordinates, they're intertwined with human territories. More than alliances, it's like a network. Her voice held a note of wonder, but Kai felt a subtle unease creeping in, the pieces of the puzzle shifting in ways he couldn't yet grasp. He joined her, his arm brushing against hers, the contact a quiet reminder of their closeness amid the unfolding mystery. A soft whoosh drew their attention, a door sliding open at the far end of the hub, revealing a figure stepping into the light. She was unmistakably Zerathian, with the same ethereal beauty as Lyra, long white hair braided intricately, porcelain skin marked by faint lines of age and experience, and small elfin ears that twitched with alertness. But there was something more. Her eyes held a warmth that spoke of worlds beyond Zerathia's cold hierarchies, and her attire blended regal robes with practical human-style jumpsuits, a fusion that screamed of cross-cultural life. "Lyra," the woman breathed, her voice a melody laced with emotion, stepping forward with arms outstretched. Lyra froze for a heartbeat, then rushed into the embrace, the two clinging to each other as years of separation melted away in tears and whispered words. Kai stood back, giving them space, his heart swelling at the reunion but his mind racing. This was the moment that could heal old wounds or unearth new ones. The woman, Lyra's mother, Queen Alara, as she introduced herself, pulled back, her gaze shifting to Kai with a knowing smile that sent an inexplicable chill down his spine. "And you must be the human who's turned my daughter's world upside down. Kai, isn't it? I've been expecting someone like you." Her words were warm, but there was a depth to them, a layer of implication that made Kai's grin falter slightly. They settled into a nearby alcove, seats materializing from the floor at Alara's command, the station's AI responding to her like an old friend. As they talked, Alara wove tales of her banishment, not a punishment, but a self-imposed exile after falling in love with a human explorer during a diplomatic mission decades ago. "He showed me the fire of humanity," she explained, her eyes distant yet fond. "Your kind's resilience, your capacity for love amidst chaos, it changed me. We built this station as a bridge between our worlds, a secret haven for those who saw beyond divisions." Lyra listened raptly, her hand finding Kai's again under the table, squeezing it as emotions swirled, joy at her mother's survival, curiosity about this hidden life. Kai contributed where he could, sharing human perspectives on interstellar relations, but a nagging sense grew. Alara's stories aligned too neatly with classified Earth files he'd glimpsed, files about joint operations shrouded in secrecy. "Your partner," Kai ventured, aiming for casual. "What became of him? Sounds like a legend." Alara's expression softened further, her small elfin ears lowering slightly in reminiscence. "He was brave, ingenious, with a smile that could disarm empires. We had a child together, a son, hidden to protect him from both sides' prejudices. Raised on Earth, trained as a soldier, destined to bridge our worlds." The words hung in the air, innocuous at first, but then the implications crashed over Kai like a supernova. Lyra's grip tightened, her eyes widening as she pieced it together, turning to him with a mix of shock and dawning realization. "Mother, what was his name?" Alara leaned forward, her gaze locking onto Kai's with maternal intensity. "His name was Marcus, and our son, he carries a mark, a subtle neural implant from my tech, disguised as a battle scar on his left arm, the one you bandaged earlier." Kai's world tilted, his hand instinctively going to the old scar on his arm, the one he'd always attributed to a childhood accident, but now pulsing faintly under his touch as if awakening. Memories flooded, vague dreams of stars not from Earth, a mother's voice that wasn't human, fragmented pieces he dismissed as imagination. "No," Kai whispered, standing abruptly, the chair scraping back with a harsh echo. "That's impossible. I'm human, born on Earth, raised in the colonies, my parents." But the words faltered as Alara activated a hologram, projecting genetic scans that matched irrefutably, his DNA, a perfect hybrid of human and Zerathian, engineered for compatibility, hidden to avoid galactic scandals. Lyra stared at him, her porcelain face paling, small elfin ears flattening in disbelief. "Kai, you're my brother." The word escaped her in a gasp, the powerful twist ripping through the room like a rift in space-time, surprising even the stars themselves. But Alara shook her head gently, clarifying with a sorrowful smile. "Half-brother, same mother, different fathers, mine was the human who came after your father's untimely death in a skirmish. But the bond, it's why you two connected so deeply. Instinctively, family calls to family." The revelation shattered the air, a surprise that twisted everything they'd built, their passion, their alliance into something profound and complicated. Kai reeled, backing against the wall, his mind a whirlwind, the ingenuity he'd always prided as human now explained by Zerathian intellect, his adaptability a gift from this hidden heritage. Lyra rose, approaching him tentatively, her curvaceous form trembling, tears glistening in her eyes. "This changes nothing, and everything," she murmured, her hand reaching out, but Kai couldn't meet her gaze yet. The twist burrowing deep, he wasn't just an underdog human, he was the key to unity, born of it, and now faced with redefining love and loyalty in ways he'd never imagined. Alara watched them, her expression a blend of hope and regret. "I hid you both to protect you, but fate brought you together. The Empire's fractures. They're symptoms of deeper divides our family can heal." As the station's systems hummed louder, detecting incoming signals from Zerathian scouts, perhaps drawn by the activation, Kai forced himself to straighten, the surprise morphing into resolve. "If we're family," he said, voice steadying, "then we fight as one. But this, us." He glanced at Lyra, the intimacy they'd shared now layered with this bombshell, a twist that surprised him to his core, forcing a reevaluation of every touch, every whisper. Lyra nodded, stepping closer, her white hair brushing his shoulder as she embraced him, not as a lover now, but as kin, though the spark lingered, complicated and undeniable. "We'll navigate it together." The drama of the revelation pulsed through them, a powerful pivot that surprised the narrative of their lives, turning enemies to allies into something far more intricate. Kai's scar throbbed, unlocking latent abilities, psionic flickers that mirrored Lyra's, a surprise gift awakening. He tested it, projecting a mental shield that enveloped them just as the scouts' probes pinged the station. Ilara activated defenses, the hub transforming into a command center. "They're coming, loyalists who never accepted my exile. But with you too, hybrids of the best both worlds offer, we can turn the tide." Kai and Lyra exchanged a look, the twist forging them anew, not just partners, but siblings united against the galaxy's storms. As alarms blared, they prepared, Kai's grin returning enigmatic, defiant, now infused with Zerathian cunning. The surprise had shaken them, but in its wake, it promised unbreakable strength. The battle erupted swiftly, scouts materializing from the nebula in sleek fighters, lasers grazing the station's shields. Kai, tapping his newfound psionics, amplified the defenses, his mind linking with Lyra's in a seamless flow that surprised even Ilara. "Your bond is stronger than I dreamed," she called over the din. Fighters swarmed, but Kai's hybrid ingenuity shone, reverse engineering enemy signals on the fly, turning their own weapons against them in bursts of disrupted fire. Lyra flanked him, her abilities enhanced by the familial link, projecting illusions that confused the attackers, ships veering off course into the nebula's hazards. One lead vessel broke through, docking forcibly, its crew Zerathian purists storming the corridors. Kai and Lyra met them head-on, a whirlwind of coordinated strikes, his human-trained combat blended with psionic bursts, her graceful dodges amplified by shared intuition. Ilara provided support from the hub, hacking into the intruder's neural links to sow doubt. A burly commander charged Kai, plasma blade humming, but Kai disarmed him with a mental push, the twist of his heritage turning the tide. "You fight like one of us," the commander snarled, surprised. Kai smirked. "Better." As the last foes surrendered, bound by energy fields, the station stabilized. Ilara approached, pride in her eyes. "This is only the start. The Empire needs its true heirs." Kai and Lyra, breathless, shared a moment, the surprise twist redefining their connection, but not diminishing it. Instead, it deepened, a familial love layered over what had been romantic, evolving into something transcendent. "Brother," Lyra tested the word, her voice soft. Kai nodded, pulling her into a hug. "Sister, let's show the galaxy what family can do." With the scouts' ship commandeered, they plotted a return to Zerathia, armed with truths that could unite or divide. The powerful twist had surprised them all, but in its revelation, it birthed a new era, hybrids leading the charge, humanity's spirit infused with alien grace. As they launched into hyperspace, the nebula fading behind, Kai felt whole for the first time, his grin a promise of surprises yet to come. As the hyperspace tunnel enveloped their commandeered ship in a mesmerizing swirl of elongated stars, Kai and Lyra stood on the bridge, the hum of the engines a steady backdrop to the whirlwind of emotions churning between them. Ilara, their mother, now a living bridge to secrets long buried, monitored the navigation console. Her white hair tied back in a practical braid that mirrored Lyra's, though etched with the wisdom of exile. The revelation of their shared bloodline hung in the air like an uninvited guest, heightening every glance, every word, into something laden with unspoken drama. Kai leaned against a railing, his newly awakened psionic abilities still tingling at the edges of his mind, making colors seem sharper, thoughts clearer, but also amplifying the awkward undercurrents. He caught Lyra's eye, and for a split second, memories of their intimate moments flashed unbidden, touches that had felt electric, now reframed as innocent yet profoundly misplaced affection between siblings separated by fate. "So," he said, forcing a grin to cut through the tension, "family road trip to reclaim an empire. What's next? Matching outfits." Lyra's porcelain skin flushed a delicate pink, her small elfin ears twitching in that telltale sign of discomfort, but she managed a soft laugh, the sound of fragile olive branch in the charged atmosphere, only if they come with built-in awkward silencers. She replied, her voice laced with a mix of humor and the dramatic weight of their shifted reality. Ilara glanced between them, her luminous eyes twinkling with maternal amusement, though she wisely stayed silent, letting them navigate this new terrain. The ship jolted slightly as it adjusted course, a minor turbulence that sent Lyra stumbling into Kai's side, an innocent bump that might have sparked something before, but now left them both freezing in place, arms brushing in a way that screamed awkward proximity. Kai steadied her with a brotherly pat on the shoulder, but his hand lingered a beat too long, prompting him to pull back abruptly, rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry, force of habit, or whatever this is. The moment stretched, dramatic in its silence, until Alara cleared her throat loudly, injecting humor with a raised eyebrow. Children, if you're going to act like you've never hugged before, this trip will feel eternal. Remember, I raised you both separately, but with the same stubborn streak. The levity helped, but it couldn't fully dispel the drama brewing as incoming transmissions flooded the comms panel. Zerathia was in turmoil. Pockets of loyalists to Alaren's fallen regime had rallied, sparking skirmishes across key sectors, while allied worlds wavered, their pledges of unity fraying under the pressure of uncertainty. Lyra stepped to the console, her curvaceous form silhouetted against the glowing screens, her torn gown, now mended with makeshift patches from the ship's stores, lending her an air of battle-hardened royalty. Reports from the palace, she announced, her tone sharpening with regal authority. Rebels are blockading the core worlds, demanding proof of my legitimacy, and whispers of my exile, your exile, mother, are spreading like nebula gas. Alara's face hardened, the lines of her experience deepening as she absorbed the news. They fear the truth that our family isn't pure Zerathian, but enriched by human blood. It's why I hid you, Kai, to prevent this very fracture. Kai paced the bridge, his hybrid heritage now a double-edged sword, amplifying his ingenuity but also making him a target. The drama escalated with a priority hail from the palace, a holographic projection of a trusted aide. His face pixelated with interference, eyes wide with urgency. Your Highness, Lyra, the council convenes in hours. Alaren's supporters claim you're compromised by the human intruder. They're calling for a purity trial. The words landed like a plasma blast, heightening the stakes to feverish levels. A purity trial? Kai knew from snatched Zerathian lore that it involved invasive genetic scans and public interrogations, a relic of old prejudices that could expose their family secrets to the galaxy. Lyra's hand trembled as she muted the hail, turning to Alara with eyes storming with emotion. Mother, if they discover Kai's lineage, our lineage, it could shatter everything we've built. Alara placed a calming hand on her daughter's shoulder, but the gesture only amplified the awkward family dynamic, 3 generations thrust together after decades apart, navigating bonds that felt both instant and strained. Kai interjected with a forced chuckle, trying to lighten the load. Purity trial? Sounds like a bad blind date with DNA scanners. Sorry, you're only 50% royal, swipe left. Lyra shot him a look that mixed exasperation and gratitude, her small elfin ears perking up despite herself. Not helping, brother. The word brother still hung awkwardly between them, a dramatic pivot that made every interaction feel like tiptoeing through a minefield of past affections. Alara smiled faintly. Actually, it might. Humor disarms more than weapons sometimes, but we need a plan arrive unannounced. Rally the loyalists before the trial begins. As the ship dropped out of hyperspace on the fringes of Zerathian space, cloaked by Alara's old exile tech to evade detection. The drama crested with sensor alerts, a blockade fleet loomed, sleek cruisers forming a net around the homeworld. Kai's psionic senses flared, picking up the chaotic thoughts of the crew's doubt, loyalty, fear like a cacophony in his mind. They're divided, he said, wincing at the mental overload. Some want to defect if we prove our claim. But the awkwardness peaked when a personal subspace message pierced their cloak, a video feed from a childhood friend of Lyra's, now a council member, her face etched with concern. Lyra, rumors are flying about you and that human, intimate alliances. If it's true, the purists will use it against you. The implication hit like a comet, freezing everyone on the bridge. Kai's face burned. The past intimacy now a scandalous specter in light of their sibling revelation. Lyra stammered, her porcelain cheeks blazing. It's complicated, but not like that, not anymore. Alara's eyes widened in realization, the maternal drama unfolding in real time as she pieced together the unspoken history. You too. Before knowing, she covered her mouth, a mix of shock and unintended humor bubbling up. Oh, stars above. That's a plot twist even I didn't foresee. My children, literally star-crossed. Kai groaned, sinking into a chair, the awkwardness reaching comedic heights. Yeah, laugh it up, Mom. Nothing says family reunion like accidental cosmic incest vibes. The word hung there, dramatic and absurd, prompting Lyra to burst into nervous laughter, tears streaming down her face. We didn't know, and now, it's just hilariously tragic. Alara joined in, the trio dissolving into chuckles that eased the tension, turning potential heartbreak into a shared absurdity that bonded them further. But humor couldn't halt the impending crisis. They plotted a daring infiltration, slipped through the blockade using Kai's hybrid psionics to project illusions, masking their ship as debris. As they executed the maneuver, drama soared, cruisers closing in, scanners probing. Kai focused, sweat beading on his brow, his mind linking with Lyra's for amplification, their sibling synergy a powerful force. "Feel that?" he whispered, the mental connection intimate yet platonic now, awkward in its purity, like we're two halves of the same star. Lyra nodded, her energy flowing into his, the illusion holding as they threaded the needle. A close call came when a patrol hailed them, mistaking the debris for salvage. Alara, quick-witted, responded in a gruff pirate accent via comms. "Nothin' here but space junk, ye swabs." The crew bought it, but Kai snorted. "Mom, that was the worst impression ever." Sounded like a robot gargling asteroids. The levity sustained them as they breached atmosphere, landing covertly in the palace outskirts amid a raging storm, literal and political. Lightning cracked the sky, mirroring the dramatic unrest below, where crowds gathered for the trial. Banners waving in conflicting allegiances, disguised in cloaks scavenged from the ship. The trio infiltrated the throngs, awkward situations piling on, Kai's human build drawing stares, Lyra's regal poise nearly giving her away, and Alara bumping into an old flame from her pre-exile days. "Alara, you're alive," the man exclaimed, his voice booming over the crowd noise. She shushed him dramatically, pulling him aside. "SHH, long story, exile, humans, hidden kids, buy me a drink later." Kai and Lyra exchanged wide-eyed looks, the humor in their mother's flirtatious deflection cutting through the tension like a laser. "Great, now Mom's got game," Kai muttered. Lyra elbowed him. "Focus, or we'll all be exiled." They reached the palace gates just as the trial commenced, holograms broadcasting the council's proceedings empire-wide. Ilaren, freed by sympathizers and now on the dais, railed against Lyra's corruption. The drama peaked as they burst into the chamber, cloaks shedding to reveal themselves. Gasps rippled through the assembly, Alara's return a bombshell, Kai's presence amplified by his hybrid aura. "The Queen lives," someone shouted while purists snarled. Lyra stepped forward, voice thundering, and with her the truth of our bloodline stronger through unity. But awkwardness struck when Ilaren, spotting Kai, sneered, "Your pet human, or should I say, nephew?" The revelation he'd gleaned from earlier scans spilled out, heightening the chaos to pandemonium. Kai, embracing the drama, projected a psionic vision, holographic recreations of their family's story, from Alara's love to his hidden birth, turning scandal into saga. The crowd wavered, some cheering, others booing, but humor intervened via a glitch in the projection, a comedic overlay of Alara's pirate accent dubbing over serious moments. I fell for a human scallywag." The assembly erupted in laughter, disarming the purists. Ilaren fumed, but the tide turned, council votes shifting as allies rallied. In the frenzy, a loyalist assassin lunged at Alara, blade gleaming. Kai intercepted psionically, flinging the attacker aside, but not before a graze drew blood. Drama soared as Alara clutched her side, Lyra rushing to her. "Mother," but Alara waved it off with a wry smile. "Just a scratch. Worse than that time I tried human cuisine, spicy tacos." Anyone, the humor, even in pain, rallied the room. Purists defecting in the face of undeniable family resilience. As guards secured the chamber, the council declared Lyra's rule legitimate, with Alara as advisor and Kai as emissary to human worlds. The awkward family truths became strengths, broadcasted as symbols of progress. Yet whispers lingered, romantic scandals reframed as pre-revelation innocence, adding a layer of dramatic folklore. Kai hugged Lyra fiercely, sibling bond unbreakable. "We did it, sis." She smiled through tears, with a little awkwardness and a lot of heart. The empire stabilized, but challenges loomed, outer threats sensing weakness. Alara, bandaged, quipped, "Next adventure, family therapy?" Laughter echoed, the drama resolving into hope, awkward moments forging unbreakable ties. As laughter faded into warm smiles on the palace balcony overlooking the glittering spires of Zerathia's capital, where the storm clouds had parted to reveal a canvas of stars twinkling like promises kept. Kai, Lyra, and Alara stood together, the weight of their victories settling into a quiet contentment. The Empire's core worlds buzzed with newfound energy below, crowds dispersing from the trial chamber with murmurs of hope rather than dissent, banners of unity fluttering in the night breeze. Ilaren's purists had been quelled. Their leaders offered redemption through service rather than exile, a testament to the compassionate rule Lyra now embodied. Kai leaned on the balustrade, his arm fully healed by advanced medbays, the scar that had unlocked his heritage now a subtle glow under his skin, a reminder of bridges built across divides. Therapy might not be a bad idea, he quipped one last time, glancing at Alara with a playful wink. Galactic family counseling, first session on me. Alara chuckled, her porcelain features softened by the moonlight, her small elfin ears perking with genuine mirth. Only if it includes stories from my exile. You'd be surprised what humans taught me about forgiveness and bad jokes. Lyra, standing between them, her white hair catching the ethereal light like threads of silver fate, placed a hand on each of their shoulders, drawing them into a circle of quiet intimacy. The dramatic upheavals of the day, the revelations, the battles, the awkward redefinitions of their bonds, had forged something unbreakable. A family not just by blood but by choice. We've rewritten the stars, she said softly, her voice carrying the regal poise of a princess who had become a true queen. But it's more than empires, it's us, finding each other across the void. The words resonated, wrapping up the threads of their journey, from Kai's defiant smile in the throne room to this moment of serene triumph, where humanity's underdog spirit had not only claimed a throne but healed a fractured lineage. In the days that followed, as the empire stabilized under their joint guidance, the true ending began to unfold like a nebula blooming into clarity. Kai embraced his role as emissary, shuttling between Zerathian councils and human colonies, his hybrid abilities making him a living symbol of unity. He discovered joys in his newfound psionics, subtle enhancements that let him sense emotions across rooms, turning negotiations into empathetic dances rather than confrontations. One evening, aboard a diplomatic vessel en route to Earth, he shared a quiet meal with Lyra, the awkwardness of their past intimacy fully transformed into the easy camaraderie of siblings. "Remember when I thought hacking your tech was the biggest thrill?" He teased, passing her a plate of replicated Earth cuisine, spicy tacos, a nod to Alara's tales. Lyra laughed, her curvaceous form relaxed in casual attire, no longer burdened by gowns of expectation. And now, hacking hearts and histories seems far more rewarding. Their bond, once laced with forbidden sparks, had evolved into a profound connection, where touches were hugs of support, and glances held the depth of shared secrets. Alara, reinstated as advisor, delved into archives with a renewed vigor, uncovering lost knowledge of early human Zerathian contacts, peaceful exchanges hidden by purist agendas. She mentored them both, her stories weaving lessons of love across species, how her human partner had taught her that vulnerability was strength, not weakness. "Your father, Kai," she confided one afternoon in the palace gardens, bioluminescent flowers blooming around them like living fireworks. He smiled just like you, defiant, warm. "It's why I knew you'd find your way back." The drama of her exile resolved into inspiration, fueling reforms that dismantled old prejudices, allowing interspecies alliances to flourish. Marriages between humans and Zerathians became celebrated, not scandals, with Kai and Lyra officiating the first such union, a human pilot and a Zerathian scholar under a canopy of stars, their own story a beacon for others. Yet no ending is without its gentle echoes of challenge, and theirs came in the form of distant threats, rogue factions from the outer rims, remnants of old empires sensing opportunity in change. Kai led a coalition fleet to address them, his ingenuity shining as he reverse-engineered enemy shields during a tense standoff, turning potential war into dialogue. Lyra joined him via hologram, her strategic mind complementing his adaptability, while Alara coordinated from home, her experience a guiding light. In one pivotal moment, amid the hum of ship engines and the crackle of comms, Kai faced a hostile commander, a grizzled alien from a conquered world, who sneered at the half-breed human. Kai's response was pure HFY spirit, a calm smile, followed by a psionic projection of Unity's benefits, showing visions of shared prosperity. The commander relented, not through force, but awe. "You're kind, you don't conquer, you inspire," he admitted, signing a treaty that expanded the alliance. Back on Zerathia, as seasons cycled simulated by the planet's domed climates, personal growth bloomed alongside political stability. Kai explored his Zerathian roots, learning psionic meditations from Alara that balanced his human restlessness, finding peace in quiet moments overlooking vast oceans that reminded him of Earth. Lyra, in turn, adopted human customs, hosting informal gatherings where laughter flowed as freely as ideas, her small elfin ears twitching with delight at earthly music and tales. their sibling dynamic deepened, filled with inside jokes about their complicated start. Remember when you threatened to kill me? Kai would tease, eliciting Lyra's eye roll and a playful shove. Only because you wouldn't kneel. Now, you'd better bow to your queen occasionally. Elara watched these exchanges with a heart full, her own life enriched by reconnection, often joining in with stories that bridged their worlds. The true beauty of their ending lay in the ripple effects. Across the galaxy, humanity's reputation soared, no longer seen as barbarians but as catalysts for change. Zerathian tech integrated with human innovation, neural implants enhancing creativity, ships blending elegance with rugged durability. Kai penned a memoir, broadcasted empire-wide, titled The Grin That Claimed the Stars, chronicling their saga with humor and heart, inspiring a new generation of explorers. Lyra established academies where hybrids like Kai could thrive, fostering talents that blurred species lines. Elara, in her twilight years, though Zerathians aged gracefully, found love again, with a human diplomat whose gentle nature echoed her past, their union a quiet testament to enduring hope. One fateful night, under a meteor shower that painted the sky in streaks of fire, the family gathered on that same balcony, toasting to futures bright. Kai raised his glass, his enigmatic smile as potent as ever. To underdogs, lost mothers, and siblings found in the stars, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Lyra clinked her glass against his, her eyes shining, and to love in all its forms, romantic, familial, galactic, Elara joined, her voice steady. May it guide us always. As the meteors faded, leaving trails of light that seemed to connect distant worlds, a sense of completion settled over them. The Empire prospered, alliances endured, and their story became legend, a HFY epic where a soldier's smile sparked a revolution, turning threats into triumphs, divisions into destinies. In the quiet aftermath, as peace blanketed Zerathia like a soft nebula veil, Kai often wandered the gardens alone, reflecting on the path that led here. From captive to kin, hacker to hero, his journey embodied humanity's essence: adaptability, empathy, unyielding spirit. Lyra ruled with wisdom tempered by warmth, her reign marked by inclusivity that honored both her heritages. Elara, content in her role, chronicled their tales for posterity, ensuring the lessons endured. Challenges arose, new explorations, emerging threats, but they faced them united, their bond a fortress against the cosmos. Years later, as grandchildren, hybrids of hybrids, played in those same gardens, chasing bioluminescent blooms under artificial suns, Kai and Lyra watched from afar, Elara between them, her hair now fully silvered. "We built this," Kai said, voice thick with emotion. Lyra nodded, her hand in his, a sibling's grasp, eternal, and it's beautiful. The galaxy spun on, vast and wondrous, but in their corner, harmony reigned, a good ending, not with finality, but with the promise of endless beginnings. As the meteor's trails dimmed into the infinite night, Kai and Lyra, and Elara knew their saga was but one chapter in the galaxy's endless story, a testament to how a single smile could ignite worlds and mend broken bonds. Years passed in harmony, with hybrids thriving, empires uniting, and love transcending all barriers, proving that humanity's spirit, blended with alien grace, was the ultimate force for good. In my opinion, this HFY tale beautifully captures resilience and unexpected connections. It's inspiring how underdogs rise through wit and heart. What do you think? Could a simple smile change your world? Thank you for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are our biggest motivation to create more epic stories. Hit that button and join the adventure.